very much. We'll hear more from the Eastern European Gypsy folk select community a little later, but I need to get us started, and you're going to have a fabulous time when they play later. We're going to do something different this morning. The whole service is different, as I said. I've been talking about the Psalms all year long, and I've created for you an invitation to worship, and what follows, the responsive invocation, that all come from Psalm 118, which is the source of the words that have been part of this church forever. This is a day which the Lord has made. But the psalm itself was meant to be shared in worship in ancient times, to be shared by worshipers in ancient Israel. And so I've rewritten a little bit to bring it to the 21st century, but I want us to share it as though we're a worshiping community. And as the choir gets up here so they can sing afterward, I'm going to direct you to look at your order of worship now. Everybody have one there? The words that you have here are taken from Psalm 118. We'll sing, we'll recite them responsively, and then our choir will lift us musically, and then we'll sing together hymn number 347. Are y'all ready? Praise God, for God is love. Let those downstairs proclaim. Let those upstairs declare. Let us all declare. In this house, love agitates us. In distress I called out, and the God that is love answered and brought me relief. If love was with me, what could anyone do? With love on my side, I will see the downfall of fear. It is better to take refuge in truth than to trust in mortals. It is better to take refuge in love than to trust. Is it not so? And now I invite you to join me again in words responsively read up to bring the Spirit closer to us in this house. Open of hope that I may enter them with praise. The rejected are the powerful the rejected by the powerful are our cornerstones.
Those spurned by the self-righteous are our pillars.
This is love's doing. It is marvelous in our spirit.
This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it.
And let me add those words that were always part of this house for so many years, and let us count our many blessings. Let us be grateful for the capacity to see, feel, hear, and understand. Let us be grateful for the incredible gift of life, and let us be especially grateful for the ties of love which bind us together, giving dignity, meaning, worth, and joy to all our days. Welcome. I am Fred Wooden. I'm one of your clergy here at Fountain Street Church for this very special and unusual service because we're combining worship with the work of the community. If you are visiting, you are a part of us today and as much a part of us as anyone else. We're going to do a little actual business, and how that fits into church I will tell you at the very end. But you are here today to do extra duty, and we are extra glad that you are here. My colleague in clergy life, Jason Hubbard, will be taking part as he gathers us in practices that we share in our chapel community that meets ordinarily at 9:30, and so that together we will be both the chapel community and the sanctuary community and one church. And so we welcome you to this combined community of worship and spirit of power and grace. Jason, would you help us ring them bells?
Well, it's Sunday, and happy Pentecost to you all. If you don't know, in the old tradition of this church's history, today is Pentecost, which is a time in the old story when the people gathered and called and welcomed and were in awe of a certain spirit, an animating force of life that came down upon them. And we thought we might try to do that same kind of thing here this morning by welcoming us all to participate in something which is very familiar to many of us who gather at 9:30 in the chapel. We've got some choir members here who would like to invite anyone in our audience who would be willing to ring a bell this morning. If you would just put your hand up, they'll come out to you. Come on, friends, we need about 10 of you. And you're going to need to put on a pair of gloves first, and then you will have a bell put into your hand. And I'm going to ask you to pay attention to that bell very quickly and just note what letter is on that bell. There it is. Wonderful. And we're going to have a very, very quick little rehearsal. Much in the spirit of the way we gather in chapel, we talk ourselves through how it is that we're going to lead ourselves in worship. So if you have a bell in your hand and it has the letter D or a letter F sharp, that's the pound sign with the letter F or an A, you're going to be our number one ringers. Can I hear you if you have D or F sharp or A printed on your bell? Listen to you. Yes, ring boldly, friends. It is the Pentecost. And then if you have the letters B or D or F sharp, can I hear you? B, D, F sharp? Oh, come on, friends. I know you got them out there. There it is. Now we need all of you to learn to sing with us. You'll see these words, ring them bells. We'll sing them over and over. Ring them bells, ring them bells. Will you sing with me? So, number ones, ring them bells, ring them. Ring them bells. Number two, there it is, fabulous. I can't hear you singing though. Ring them bells, ring them bells. Oh, now you have it. And if in any time you find you need some leadership, our whole choir here is welcome to offer their sense of ringing at any time will work. This is Holy Spirit work, friends. It doesn't matter. It's going to be perfect. We're going to sing together this wonderful song originally by Bob Dylan, which speaks of this power of the animating spirit of life coming upon us and us welcoming it. So I want to ask you to rise as you're able this morning, and we'll sing together. If you don't know the tune, you will soon. Just follow along and sing as you feel inspired. Our friend Ray is with us this morning, who often plays in chapel, and he's going to be leading us too. Are you ready, Ray? Here we are. I hope all of you felt a power to gather the Spirit. We will, as is comfortable, gather those bells back up from you, but don't worry, if we don't get them, we'll get them back eventually, I promise. I want to give you a very quick experience of something you might often experience if you arrived at 9:30 into our chapel, something you might take with you actually as our choir performs after here. It's known as a hand mudra. It's very common in Eastern practices as a contemplative aid, a way to gather a spirit and distill it right in front of us so that we might gather ourselves. So to gather yourselves in spirit, I welcome you this morning to take out your two hands. And we're going to make something that would help us to remind of a kind of gathering spirit. You may know that we are currently in the season of Ramadan with our Muslim brothers and sisters. Ramadan coming from the word Ramadah, which means the scorching dry heat. A power like a spirit that gathers and distills during this month of Muslim recognition of a coming down of a revelation of their story. So not at all different from a Pentecost kind of gathering spirit. If you take your two hands and cross them just slightly so that your right thumb is to the left of your left thumb. So just pass your hands by one another. And then kind of draw the thumbs together so that they might make something like a flame in the middle. And then you notice you have fingers out here and you can wiggle them. And if you hold them closely like this, it's almost like an embrace. And you can remind yourself of a gathered spirit, a gathering animating energy, source of life of the world. And as our choir sings, I welcome you to bring this kind of gathering spirit, and instead of applause when they're done, I welcome you to motion your engagement with the spirit of life they are inviting down by this kind of emotion, outward and gathering inward, outward and gathering inward. I know it's a little unusual for church, And I hope that you'll find it's a way actually to pay even greater attention to what our choir is offering, and as they finish, to honor the spirit they are gathering with this silent gathering blessing.
I'm going to invite our board chair, Wynne Irwin, to convene the congregational meeting that is to take place in a very brief but important amount of time. Please welcome your board chair, Wynne Irwin.
Thanks, Fred. This is a little strange, I know, but the governing board really felt it was important to bring the whole community together. And what better reason than a special meeting like bylaws? But just to remind some of all of you that your church is run on a very democratic form, and the membership votes on all the bylaws, and that's what this is all about. All the members have been noticed of this meeting, so that it's a special membership meeting. And so I'll officially call the meeting to order of our special membership of Fountain Street Church. And I would accept a motion to approve the bylaw changes. And if you need a copy, there's copies in the back. In the communication that we sent you, we highlighted the major portions. I need to tell you, and it was listed in the notice, that this is the culmination of a lot of work by a lot of people. And they worked diligently on sort of what you call cleaning up the bylaws, which frankly is fairly boring stuff for the most part. There are a few substantive changes that were listed in the original email. So with that, I would accept from a governing board a motion to approve those bylaws as presented in the bylaw packet. So moved by Carol. Support? Support. Okay, so they're on the floor, and with parliamentary procedure, we're open for discussion and or amendment. Is there any comments? Anybody has any questions? A couple things that are in there. We reduced the numbers on some of the the process in order to select a new senior minister, because we thought those numbers were too large for where we were today, and we've changed the committee structure. For some reason in the bylaws we listed a lot of committees. Some of them didn't exist. Committees didn't go away. We just didn't think they belonged in the bylaws, and then we added a finance committee to the bylaws as well. Any other questions for me? I can barely see, but it's okay. This is pretty bright up here, folks. Yes?
I have some detailed amendments. I was proposing that
Got a microphone.
I had done some detailed amendments that were passed out, I think, to most of you. This doesn't change any of the intent or the structure procedures. It's, in my opinion, cleaning up some language and eliminating some ambiguities. So these lists that are in the form for submitting amendments are simply to do that, not to change what we're trying to accomplish. I don't know if this is the time to...
I don't have a copy of those. This could take a while if we go through these.
Sorry.
No, this is the original bylaws. This is not his changes, I don't believe. I don't know where the changes are. We had previously, incidentally, just so you know, we had sent out a notice and had a deadline on this, so Don's motion missed that deadline, but he's submitting them today, and we are an open meeting and it's a democratic process. In his motion, he is changing some wording in number 1.1, qualifications. First, I guess I'll just read this, striking out an annual financial contribution and inserting and is maintaining an annual financial commitment. And in Article 2.6, meetings, striking out the first two bullets and then replacing them with A and B. And in Article 2.7, conflict of interest, striking out in the last line, vote to, and inserting voting. And in Article 3.8, standing committees, Section A, bullet points 3 and 4, striking out enduring and inserting to ensure. And in Article 3.8, standing committees, striking out annually and inserting in parentheses annually. Note that the bullet preceding C should be deleted. And Article 6.1, vacancy, striking out comprised and inserting composed. And in Article 7.3, striking out if and inserting until. Do I have a second for that motion? Second in the back, okay. Okay, those are all basically wording changes yes, Bill?
Thank you, Bill Brunner. Looking at these proposed amendments to the amendments, the first one appears to me to be substantial and not just a minor wording change. And I think the original language is clearer and more actionable, and the proposed language actually creates an ambiguity.
Any other comments? Our normal process, by the way, is for the Oversight Committee has reviewed every word in the bylaws already, so we're continuing to try to change the words and clean them up. Yes?
I agree with Section 1.1B. I like the change that's proposed. I'm a victim of that circumstance, and I have been removed from membership because of that, so I have lived through it. I know what this means, and I agree with this change.
Okay. Okay, any other comments? Brad up front.
I'm looking at I think 7 of them, Don, are on here, 7 recommendations. And while I wasn't on the Oversight Committee or worked with the process, wording changes, having worked for a couple of members of Congress in the past, I think are very important and intensive, time-consuming things to try and figure out to everyone's satisfaction. And so I would recommend, and I don't know if this would be in the form of a friendly amendment, if Don would be willing to accept it, to forward those to the committee for the next round of study for the next round of bylaws. I don't know, would that be a friendly amendment, Don?
Brad, are you making a motion to refer?
Yes, if that's the process.
So that would be a motion to refer these back to the Oversight Committee. Do I have a second for that motion? I hear a second. Any other further discussion? In other words, what he's saying is, you know, neither here nor there on these bylaws, but that they should properly be sent to the Oversight Committee. Then they would review and bring it back. And we have an annual meeting coming up in November, and we could bring anything back that came up at this meeting. So anyway, that's the motion that Brad is proposing. Any discussion on that motion? If not, yes.
And now we have another motion.
A motion by parliamentary procedure.
Can you clarify exactly what's on the floor now and what motion, how the first motion affects the second? Thank you.
What is on the floor is a motion to approve the bylaws as originally written. Now we've got a motion to amend those bylaws that's submitted by Don. And now we've got a motion to refer Don's specific amendment to the Oversight Committee for review.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yes, I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. Okay, all those in favor of referring, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Okay, they're referred. So now we're back to discussion of the bylaws themselves and open to any other amendments. And we've got one that we know we're going to have, and that one is printed in your agenda. Mark?
Yes. Good morning. My name is Mark Santamore. I use they, them, their pronouns. So if you check your special membership meeting, I already have a motion printed in there. So I guess I would just formally like to make a motion to amend the proposed bylaw section 2.1A to delete completely and insert only a voting member in good standing can be qualified to serve as a governing board member. Church staff are ineligible for governing board membership, and I'm certainly here and can offer a detailed explanation as to why I'm proposing those and why I wasn't happy with the proposed to begin with.
Okay, do I have a second to Mark's motion? A second, okay. Now we're open to discussion of the amendment. Mark, you want to be?
Yeah, sure. So in the original bylaws, let me just pull it up here. Section 2.1A reads, a member shall be disqualified from holding office if he or she is no longer a voting member of the church, or if he or she violates the governing board's meeting attendance expectations. Church staff are ineligible for governing board membership. What's being proposed currently is that we remove that and we make it a 12-month minimum. So you'd actually have to be a congregant member of the church in good standing, so paying your dues for 12 months before you would be eligible. I actually feel like we have literally the opposite problem. I think we actually struggle to get folks wanting to be on the governing board and to sign up. I personally was voted into the governing board by all of you when I had only been a member here for 9 months. So I can be a living example of how those rules really shouldn't apply. Although I will say I really disagree with the language that exists now. As I read it, it's very binary, which is an antiquated system for gender. So it's very he or she. As someone who is transgender and goes by the pronouns they, them, their, actually would not qualify to serve on the board anymore if we continue with those original. So what I did was I just made a real simple amendment that I feel like was very clear. And again, I'll read it once again. It says, only a voting member in good standing can be qualified to serve as a governing board member. So it goes ahead and deletes that qualification for 12 months, and then it leaves in, which is something that the proposed amendment took out, church staff are ineligible for governing board membership, just because I feel that there should be a clear line of separation between the governing board and, of course, staff of the church. So that's kind of a brief explanation. I don't want to make it cumbersome. I just make it simple. If there's not a problem, let's not fix it.
Okay. Any other comments? Carol?
On behalf of the Oversight Committee, I would just like to explain why this change was made. As you know, the governing board is required to set policy based on an understanding of the church's mission and has the fiduciary responsibility to govern and steer the church toward a sustainable future, which was the case with more than one of the proposed revisions. The Oversight Committee was not unanimous on how long it takes, but a majority thought it takes a year or more for someone to understand the function of the church. Therefore, the proposed revision.
Okay. Anybody else? Yep. Fred, we got one.
I see
more
one
person?
and I see two, three.
No.
Could I recommend a compromise of 6 months?
It's an open meeting. Yeah. Other comments? Oops. Fred's going to the back. Should have thought we had.
Gentlemen.
We got one.
I know, but
We got Bill down here.
So Omar, and then I see two other pictures.
I'm Edgar Marty. I don't know if this is appropriate at this moment to raise a question about the process this morning.
Yeah, well, yeah, sure.
So, Section 10 of the bylaws says these bylaws may be amended by a 2/3 majority of the ballots received from members of this church voting at a meeting held for that purpose. The process this morning appears to be a show of hands.
Correct.
And there's no ability to determine whether the hand
That's correct. That's correct.
belongs to a
We
member.
proceeded with this process, you know, on a democratic basis and to allow people to be present to vote.
Okay, so that is interpreted as a ballot that can be verified as having come from a member.
We did not put out ballots.
Right. So that's a question about the process. Thank you.
Oops.
Excuse me? Kathleen? Excuse me. Jean, did you want to speak?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. She said Kathleen. I didn't hear.
I'm at a disadvantage. I didn't get the email, but I object to any time period. I object. We are intelligent people. If you choose to come here,
Get closer.
you're intelligent.
Get closer. Just keep.
Well, it's not.
It is working. You just have to get it close to your mouth.
I think she was indicating that she was opposed to any time period.
Thank you. Okay. Sharon, did you have something? Anyone else? I'm coming.
You got some more down here, Fred?
Coming. I can only.
Bill?
I'm interested in the dropping of the staff member. I guess I'm curious why the Oversight Committee dropped the restriction on prohibiting staff members from being on the board.
It did not. Yeah, they did. Okay.
I can't speak to it because maybe the Oversight Committee can. There's one more person.
On the discussion of, is it on? You hearing me? No, you are. Okay, on the discussion of time period and this amendment, the amendment proposed over here, I would point out that it would be possible to be attending this church for quite a long time without being a voting member or a pledging member.
That's correct.
When would this be appropriate to amend the proposed bylaw as recommended by Mark Seymour to send it back to the Oversight Committee for reconsideration?
We're open to amendments. Are you making that motion?
I am making that
Motion to
amendment.
refer to the Oversight
back
Committee?
to the
That particular
Oversight.
amendment. Okay, is there a second?
Second.
There's a couple seconds. Any discussion on referring it back? Mark?
Thank you. It actually already has been referred back. So the Oversight Committee, since I serve on the board, we've been in communication about me doing this today, which is why it's actually printed in your order of service. So the Oversight Committee is already aware of this and knew I was going to do it, which is why Carol had that proposed statement. So referring it back really wouldn't do anything because clearly they're happy with how they originally worded it. And I would also say, in regards to the time limit, I agree. I'm in favor of no time limit, and I think any sort of time limit restriction, keep in mind 6 months, 12 months, 2 days, you vote. So if it's an individual who you're unaware of, who you don't think is qualified, just don't vote for them. So I think the time restriction is kind of silly because you already hold the power.
Yeah, Mark is correct. This is a recommendation through the Oversight Committee, so sending it back, to the same committee, although it's a different membership today than it was previously. Any other discussion on the amendment to refer this back to the Oversight Committee? This is a motion to refer the amendment that you see in here to 2.1, paragraph A, to the Oversight Committee. All those in favor of referring it back, say aye. All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
The nays have it. So we will continue to proceed to the vote of that particular amendment as proposed by Mark. Is there any further discussion? Yes.
I would just like to add, my name is Betty Gale Shively, and I'm on the governing board as well, and I've researched this. I was also on the Oversight Committee and voted against this change. It was a very close vote. And one of the reasons I voted against a qualification of a certain number of months for a member to run for the governing board is that in itself is a change to the way the bylaws have been written all these years. And I think that the process of voting, as Mark mentioned, has gotten us many qualified board members, and I think we as a congregation can vote for those people, and there shouldn't be any exclusions, and the process has been working, so if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Further discussion? We got something back. No, we did not. The Oversight Committee person?
I have that answer.
Oh, it's in the side.
Well, this is the deal. We did not remove that from that. When this bylaw revisions were sent out to you, an error was made in the typing, and that is not removed. So I guess we're going to have to do another mailing on that. We'll discuss that with the board chair later. But that was not removed, Kirsten, and I apologize for the mistake in the typing.
So that's the explanation. There's a clerical error that the church staff member portion of that amendment was inappropriately deleted from the communications that we sent out to the congregation. So that's part of it. Is there any other further?
Yeah, hi. Oh, well, it's louder than I thought it would be. I'm Steve Assarian. Section 10 in the amendments section does really, to the gentleman's point, say that we do need ballots anyway. Like we do, it clearly states these bylaws may be amended by a 2/3 majority of the ballots received from members. So I make a motion to table all this stuff until we have a ballot process in place, because I think that's a good way of doing this. I don't really see any reason to change that. I don't feel that the ballot process is onerous in something as important as amending the bylaws.
I think that motion is in order to refer this back, publish ballots, and then it would be in the November meeting. The only reason that we were pushing it forward in this meeting, for your information, is there were some changes to the search process and the numbers in the search process, and we wanted to proceed with those numbers, and that's why we were pushing toward the special meeting. We did have a town hall meeting, and none of this came up at the town hall meeting that everybody was invited to a few weeks ago. But other than that, that motion is in order to refer back to a ballot process and the next membership meeting. Do I have a second to that motion? A second in the back by Omar.
May I speak to it?
Sure.
Sir, to pick, shall we say, to split hairs, the word may is not requiring, but an optional. And the church may call for ballots, not shall or will. And it was the judgment of the governing board that this decision did not require a ballot to be followed. So it is not a prescriptive process, but an optional process. That's the rationale.
Okay.
Just letting you know that's how it came about.
Yeah. Yeah. to?
I'm going to go to a new face.
This is discussion on the motion to refer them to the November meeting with a ballot.
I just have a question on the ballots. What is the percentage of return on the ballots? I believe it's low.
We don't have that number in front of us.
Yeah, if I remember previous meetings, and Gary can probably correct me, I believe what happens at a meeting is you allow the ballot process, you count those, and then people in the actual meeting also have the opportunity to vote. So it would be both, always. You know, what's missing here, of course, is the ballot, no ballots were sent out. Is that correct, Gary?
10% of any ballots sent out, that's being generous.
The word ballot is commonly thought to refer to a paper ballot. It can also mean an electronic ballot. It also can mean a voice ballot. It can also mean a hand in the air ballot.
Any other discussion? If not, this is on the motion to refer this to, with a ballot, to the November meeting. All those in favor, please raise your hand to referring them. All those opposed to that motion, please raise your hands. Okay, the noes have it. We are back to the amendment. Mark's amendment. We have not voted on that as yet. Is there any discussion further on the amendment? If not, all those in favor of approving the amendment as it's written in your agenda offered by Mark, please signify by raising your hand. The amendment is, the motion is to amend bylaws, section 2.1A, to delete completely and insert only a voting member in good standing can be qualified to serve as a governing board member. Church staff are ineligible for governing board membership. That's the amendment that Mark has offered and it's been seconded, and we've had discussion, and now we're ready to vote. Thank you. All those in favor of that amendment, please raise your hands. All those opposed, please raise your hands. The yeas have it. Now we would proceed to the full bylaw changes as with the new amendment. Any further discussion on the bylaws?
Judy hasn't spoken yet.
Way back.
Back to you.
My name is Judy Botts, and as I read the mailing that came to me, there was one that states the Oversight Committee shall conduct evaluations of the senior minister at a minimum of once every 3 years, and the executive director annually, so on and so forth. I am just wondering what protocol is for evaluating a senior minister, because I've never been actively involved in any other church before. What has Fountain Street done in the past? What is best practices?
I'm going to ask Carol to answer that, because it hasn't been exactly the same every time we've done it, but we've had some pretty thorough process. But it's a good question, and we should get Carol to answer that.
Come back to you.
We're also in the middle of that process.
Thank you for the question, Judy. The process has not been the same each time, so I have not been chair of the oversight in past times, but I am chair of the oversight committee at this time, and the process that we will be using will be unusually different from the others, because this will probably be the last, if you want to call it, job performance review of the senior minister. We are going with the current Oversight Committee has decided on a process to ask the senior minister to assist us in reviewing what he sees as his accomplishments and what he can do to help us study what we can do for the future of the church. We're calling it a retrospective review, and we will be submitting questions to the senior minister. The questions submitted by the Oversight Committee will be sending those to the senior minister. We will be meeting with him. This is a closed process. It is a review of staff. And we are in the process of doing that on the coming meeting, and the questions will be referred to Fred, and then we will be writing up a document to say what we think we have learned from the past and what we could gain from the future.
Carol, could you just mention the last time we did it, it was a much larger, more comprehensive process. Just quickly say, because it's once every 3 years, and it's not necessarily exactly the same, but the last time we did it was very inclusive.
As I said, I was not on the membership committee at that time, so I can't speak to the details of it, but it was a pretty extensive process, and it included, I think, a survey of the membership. So that was different from what had been done 2 prior ones, but the last one was a survey of the membership. We will not be doing that again.
And I would just make the comment, we're an open governing board, meetings are open, thoughts as you have on any of the things, the business that we conduct are always open, and we're welcome to having people to attend and make comments at every board meeting, and we have people come almost all the time. So I think Carol's explained and answered it. And any other questions on the bylaws as amended?
I mean, this is a relatively technical question, but as chair of the Duncan Littlefair Great Speakers Series, which as far as I know is the only charter group of this church, I'm wondering if the Section 4 amendments are intended in and of themselves to dissolve us as a charter group and reconstitute us as a committee. I am absolutely unopposed to that move, but I'm just asking if that's being done at this point.
Just because they're not in the bylaws, no committees are going away.
No, I didn't think
no charter groups. No charter groups are going away either, officially. We are only saying that they didn't belong in the bylaws, and they're taking them out of that particular document. We're actually in the middle of some work on trying to figure out our standing committees and exactly what they do in the other process, and clearly the Great Speakers group is one of those, and a very important part of what we do. So in no way does this change our committees that have been here. Some committees, by the way, ended up in the bylaws. Some committees had just been working for years and years and years and somehow missed the bylaws. We just didn't think that's the right place, except for a few.
Okay, that's fine. And by the way, we would be happy to be a committee instead of a charter group. But
yeah. Incidentally, different groups are called different things, and that's okay. Any other questions on the bylaws in their totality? If not, all those in favor of approving them as amended, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. With that, I'll actually have a motion to adjourn. I think I have to do that and get back to this service. Sorry for business, but that's what we do in a democratic, open governing board. So moved. Support. All those in favor say aye. Back to Fred. Thank you.
If you'd like to hear more of Carolyn and her band and her many ways in which she incarnates as a musician, come to chapel sometime. She's there with us pretty regularly. And check the website. It'll let you know. Thank you so much for being here. What a joy. Yeah. We take time on Sundays at Fountain Street to gather ourselves and show up fully and completely so that we might welcome a spirit larger than ourselves. And I welcome you this morning to remember the little hand mudra that was offered. Thank you for blessing our choir with that. And if it would be helpful at this time to gather yourself in contemplative awareness of the spirit that has given you life, that calls your breath to move in and out, deeper and slower, to a sense of gratitude and purpose. This is the time in which we welcome you to a silence, to prayer, to meditation, whatever it is that is your practice, to call on this Pentecost day and the season of Ramadan, in the recent celebration of the Mother, whether you know her or not, who did in fact give you life. May we take time now in prayer to give thanks and praise. Let's gather our hearts and minds, friends. And in recognition of that spirit which comes upon us one and all, may we say together, Amen.
I'm going to run right past the next hymn because I want to hear this report. I'm excited about what they're going to do, and we'll do Amazing Grace after we've been forwarded into the future. So I'm going to invite our the co-chairs of our Envision. What I don't even sure, what is it? Not the trans. I don't even know what you guys your official name is, but you're doing some colossal fun work. Do you want to do it downstairs or upstairs? They both work. All right, go ahead. You go where you need to go.
We decided instead of us coming together and creating some events, that we would simply go to its existing organizations and committees in the church and ask them could they contribute to the year and what events might they want to implement. And so if we'll go to the next screen, here are the different committees and representatives who are working with us. And so we've been meeting for about 9 months, and we're slowly putting together a group of activities that we'd like to explain for you. So these are the people who have been helping us and are help coordinating. I'd also like, not listed there, is Kara Koistra, and she has been real helpful to us lately in doing some initial fundraising, which we needed to do in order to raise some funds for some of those things we need deposits at this time of the year. So what Jill and I are going to do is we're going to go through the 16 different activities and events that we have already sort of had planned, just giving you a quick highlight of what you can anticipate seeing during that year.
So we have two of these sort of wheels, and I know it's really difficult for you to see the print up there, but I first just want to say, this is a really exciting time for our church. I'm really excited to be working with Todd. All those people that were on the previous slide have been just wonderful in supporting us. There's a lot of excitement coming up for celebrating 100 years of Fountain Street Church. So one of the things we wanted to make sure that kind of went through all of the activities we have planned is that we're having fun, right? Because sometimes fun maybe comes second or third down the list, but a lot of this stuff hopefully will kind of bring back that spirit of friendship and community that, at least for me, I know has brought me back to Fountain Street over and over. So we'll start at the beginning. In January, we'll have a kickoff celebration service where we really do kick off the 150th celebration and bring everybody together. We're really looking forward to bringing people back that maybe haven't been in a while, so that will be something we'll do. We're going to have a 150 challenge, and I can talk more about this afterwards if you want to come up and get more information, but basically it's just taking the numbers 1, 5, and 0 and creating a challenge for yourself. So maybe that's adding $150 to your pledge. Maybe that's hiking 150 miles or something, maybe building something out of 15.0 bricks, something like that.
I go to the gym every day, so I'm going to do 150 days at the gym during that year. That's my commitment.
So yeah, and so we're going to invite you to be really creative with that. Carrie Kidder's heading that up, so you'll be hearing more about that. We're going to have an FSC talent show, which should be really great. We have some big bands, big names kind of coming through.
David Lockington has agreed, or we're working on getting him back here, so he will be one of the talent that will be performing that.
Choir is heading that up. There's going to be a lot. The art committee has been so engaged with the 150th anniversary, so there's a lot of stuff that the art committee is doing, 6 different kind of options or potential exhibits. And I should say all of these are subject to change, but we're pretty excited and have gotten lots of feedback on these. The lip dub video. I don't know if everybody knows what a lip dub video, but basically it's one continuous shot that I foresee coming down from the top of Character School and having everybody we can get in the congregation and the community be part of this video where we sing a song, and it should be a ton of fun. So look for more on that. The 150th grand celebration we really see as sort of a street fair out front where we invite all the charities that we support to come join us for food and fun, carnival games and music, that kind of thing, really celebrating with the community.
And And we're getting permission from the city to close down the street between here and the library. So that'll be a whole street fair out there with music, food, and entertainment. So again, you can see the excitement that we think is being planned into that event.
The Great Speakers event, we're again in the planning stages. We're looking for to bring Brian Stevenson, and I don't know if anybody knows him, but he's kind of incredible. He works with the
Southern Power.
Started the lynching memorial. I would highly encourage you to go on and listen to his TED Talk about social justice, and he's incredible. So we're in the early stages of trying to get him to come. We're also talking about, with the state of Michigan, getting a marker on the grounds for the 150th year marker, and then the year-long social action project. You know, seeing the mushroom guy, I don't know if I can call him that, but that was something, yes, you're like, mushroom guy, is that okay? We are working with Family Promise, which is a charity that is near and dear to a lot of us at Fountain Street Church, helping homeless families. We've already gotten a ton of energy about creating homes, so we take a mobile home and rehab it. And we're looking at maybe doing 2, which is a pretty significant contribution of both time and money, but given the energy we've seen around this in celebration of what we're doing for our 150th has been great. And then, of course, the choir is working with the poetry group to come up with a new musical piece to mark 150 years. So that's just the first half of stuff that we have going on. Again, if you have questions, I'm happy to explain more details afterwards.
If we can go to the next slide. Here's some other activities that are taking place. So you can see at 12 o'clock is when we're talking about the Women's Association. They thought it'd be a wonderful idea to celebrate the women here at Fountain Street Church. What activities, what musicians, what have they done to contribute to our church's history? And so they're planning on having some event there and possibly a meal afterwards. Down at 6 o'clock, following up with the Women's Association, I don't know if you know this or not, but about 40 or 50 years ago, this church was famous for having these fancy dinner dances. The social hall was a lot bigger at that time, and we simply would have a good dance band, some good food, some drinks, and a lively entertainment. And so we're going to reinstate that. We're going to see maybe have a fancy night out, and the Women's Association is working on that. If you go over to the, 10 o'clock, this is the chapel service, and what their idea was, and they came to us, they said, we'd like to explore the religious traditions that have influenced Fountain Street Church. We're a pluralistic theological community, and so they're going to invite one person or one group in each month who practices a different religious tradition and have them explain that and how it has found itself here at Fountain Street Church. Over on the, 2 o'clock, the outdoor banners, we talked about some banners here in the church. The art committee is working with this. They're thinking it might be fun to have banners on the outside of the church, that side, and even on this side, depending on the money, that announce and celebrate Fountain Street's 150th anniversary and our contribution to Western Michigan in liberal thought. So we're looking at that. Those may be hung during the year too. 8 o'clock, organ recital. The American Guild for Organists has a convention here in July in 2019. They're going to use our beautiful organ, and there's going to be a recital here in the church. So we said, well, isn't that be a wonderful way to celebrate and realize the contribution and what a beautiful organ we have and how we take it for granted. Well, they're going to be here and have an actual recital that will be done and we'll be invited to. Over at the 4 o'clock one, and this is going to be the character school. They have said what they thought would be fun would be to create portraits using some help from the art committee members who will help the kids create portraits of famous people who have spoken here or musical groups that performed here, and then we'll display those somewhere in the church house so we can celebrate and see their work. So these are the 16 activities that we have currently on the books, thinking we're going to do these. They may change as time goes on, but we're excited about those. I know it's hard for you to see that. If you'd like to have a copy of this, we have some copies outside in the narthex and at the information table. Also, we are looking for donations. If you're interested in donating, there's a form out there that you can help us with that. So anyway, we will keep you involved. We'll keep you informed. We'll probably be next fall before we come back to you, and by that time we'll solidify some of these activities and hopefully have some dates on them. So that's our plan. That's what we're hoping to do. We hope that you join us in the excitement of that celebration. Thank you.
Fred preempted me. I love it. His enthusiasm overcame himself. A couple quick things. Carol came by and said, "You got to tell everybody that they've got a list of all the groups, all the committees, and we can continually. This place is amazing. Both sides. There's an unbelievable amount of activity that goes on here on a regular basis." And so if you need more information, check with the office. It's open on Sundays as well, and check with them. The other thing I wanted to present officially to you is something that the governing board was very proud of, and I think in a welcome some time ago I mentioned it, but I want to read to you the mission and vision statement that they came up with a year ago. We did strategic planning, and I think I'm just going to read it. You have a copy of that, but this has been revised. We've had them in the past, but our vision statement is: we strive to be a vibrant church community that challenges individuals to craft their own spiritual journeys and to engage in creative and responsive action in the world. Our mission: we support the creative tension between intellect and spirit, faith and science, individual and community, tradition and change, challenging us to honor our legacy by embracing the future. And then our core values, these will be familiar. We value the spirit of inquiry, which respects the religious, humanist, and spiritual teachings from many wisdom traditions. We value the direct experience of the mystery that moves us to engage in the never-ending search for universal truths that free the mind. We value the active practice of love and justice in human relationships, which validate the worth and dignity of each human being, inspiring us to deepen our commitment to deeds over creeds, calling us to grow our soul. And we value community founded on the purposeful inclusion of all, in the service of others within our church and beyond, connecting and empowering us to, of course, change the world. The only other comment that I have is there's a nominating group out there. The membership is Carol Koistra, Brad Miller, Katie Mitchell, Chris Van Antwerp, Judith Kennitz, and Janet Peterson. Their charge is to come up with a nominating committee, nominations for the search group itself. And obviously you know that Fred's retiring in 2020. We have to have a search group. This is the opportunity to find people who'd be willing to search on that, to search for a new person to lead Fountain Street Church in the future. It's a very, very important thing. If you have a thought of somebody who could serve on that, or you're interested in it, they can lead you to what might be required. Their goal is to come up with nominations, a whole bunch of them hopefully, and then present them to the congregation, and then we would choose and elect a specific group then that would go out and spend a lot of time trying to find the right leader for the future. So that's the nominating group. We call it the search nominating group. So if you have any thoughts for those people, let them know. If not, we'll move on to the next. Thanks.
Well, it says in some scriptures that the Spirit bloweth where it listeth, which is to say we have no control over how long anything takes. And you spoke in different ways, so I'm going to be arbitrary, and we're not going to sing that hymn, but I'm going to give you a few words. We're going to hear a piece of music, and I'll give you a short blessing, and we'll be on our way out of here. The few words are, did this feel like a worship service to you? Probably not. And yet it was a profoundly worshipful experience, because we mistake the experience of exaltation for the reality of transformation. What you did in your congregational meeting, what you did by listening to the plans of the future, were to equip yourselves to be a community for tomorrow as well as today. The word worship means to shape that which has worth, to give it form, substance, and direction. As dull as it is, changing bylaws is how you do that. No, it doesn't have much joy. Not very much celebration, not very much delight in the theatrical sense, but you shaped that which has worth today. Did you get stuck watching the wedding yesterday? I did. I like to watch fellow clergy do their job. I'm ticking off the boxes. But the preacher, Archbishop Murray, African-American, Anglican Episcopal Archbishop, he sold it yesterday when he reminded us that the task of faith is the work of love. And I want to tell you that if you felt like you were doing work earlier, you were right. And the work that you did was the work of love. That is to say, to put things of value in their place. No one said it would be easy. No one said we'd get along. No one said we'd understand the outcomes of what we do. And yet we shape that which is worthwhile. We do the work of love, and that is how Fountain Street becomes the community it is, because it's not me, it's not the organ, it's not the seats, it's not the walls, it's us doing the work of love, and you did it. So if it didn't feel like worship, try again. Because it truly was worship that we did today. You did it. You didn't experience it. You made it happen. So that is what I want you to take from this day. Now, Mr. Papoulis,